The steady beep of hospital monitors was the first thing I became aware of. Not in the usual way. I couldn't open my eyes or move my body. But I could hear everything. The rhythmic sound of my own heartbeat translated into electronic pulses, the squeak of nurses' shoes on linoleum floors, and most devastatingly, the conversations happening around me. My name is Emma Mitchell, and according to my husband James, I was dead. It's time to let her go, I heard him say, his voice carrying that practiced grief I come to recognize during our 10 years of marriage. The doctors say there's no hope. The doctors had said no such thing. In fact, just that morning, Dr. Peterson had noted improvements in my brain activity. I knew because I'd heard her clearly. The signs are promising. We just need to be patient. But James wasn't interested in patience, or hope, or the truth. I had been in a coma for 6 weeks following a car accident, the same accident that James had walked away from without a scratch. The accident that occurred right after I'd told him I wanted to look at our joint accounts, that something wasn't adding up. Your sister would want you to move on. Sarah's voice drifted in. Sarah, my best friend since college, the one person I trusted more than anyone. Her tone was soft, comforting, the same tone she used when she was lying. Emma wouldn't want you to suffer like this. I wanted to scream. I wanted to thrash and grab them both by the throats and demand to know what game they were playing. But I could only lie there, listening as they planned my funeral. A funeral for a woman who was very much alive. The next few weeks were a blur of conversations and revelations, each more horrifying than the last. Through snippets of dialogue between nurses, visits from unknowing relatives, and quiet conversations in my room, I pieced together what was happening. James had told everyone I was brain dead. He'd organized a funeral, closed casket of course, and given a heartbreaking eulogy about losing the love of his life. He'd collected on my life insurance policy a substantial sum I hadn't even known existed. And Sarah, my dear friend Sarah, had been there to support him through it all. The insurance company didn't even question it. I heard James say one evening, his voice low and gleeful. $2 million, just like that. Your plan worked perfectly. Our plan, Sarah corrected him. I didn't spend the last year helping you set this up for nothing. A year, they'd been planning this for a year. Every dinner party, every girls' night out, every sympathetic hug when I complained about James's late nights at work. It had all been part of their scheme. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that I wasn't as helpless as I appeared. My mind was alert, recording every word, every confession, every detail of their betrayal, and I had an ally they never suspected. Lisa, my night nurse, was the first to notice that I responded to verbal commands. Small things at first, a slight finger twitch when she asked, a change in heart rate when she mentioned James. She didn't tell anyone else, but she started talking to me during her shifts, asking me questions that required simple yes or no responses. 1 squeeze for yes, 2 for no. Are you aware of what's happening? She asked one night, her voice barely a whisper. 1 squeeze. Do you understand what your husband has done? 1 squeeze. Do you want me to help you? 1 firm squeeze. Lisa became my lifeline, my connection to the outside world. During her quiet night shifts, she would update me on what was happening beyond my hospital room. James had moved Sarah into our house just 2 weeks after my funeral. They were already talking about marriage. My sister Kate, devastated by my supposed death, had hired a private investigator because something felt wrong about the accident. She was right. Something was very wrong. Through Lisa, I learned that the accident hadn't been as straightforward as everyone believed. The brake lines in my car had been tampered with, not cut completely, which would have been too obvious, but damaged enough to fail at high speed. The police had ruled it an accident, but Kate wasn't convinced. Your sister's investigator is getting close, Lisa told me one night, checking my vitals while she whispered. He's requesting the insurance documents. James is getting nervous. Good, I thought. Let him sweat. But James had other plans. I overheard him arguing with Sarah in my room, thinking I was just an empty shell, unaware of their words. We need to move her, he hissed. Private facility somewhere far away. Once she's transferred, if something happens, well, no one would question it. She's already dead on paper. Sarah's voice shook slightly. Isn't that risky, moving her? Riskier than letting her lie here? What if she wakes up? The fear in his voice gave me a grim satisfaction. Yes, James. What if I wake up? What if I tell everyone what you've done? But I needed more time. My body was slowly responding, but I wasn't strong enough yet. Lisa had been documenting everything. My responses, their conversations, all of it. We just needed to hold on a little longer. That night after James and Sarah left, Lisa leaned close to my ear. They filed transfer papers, she whispered. They're moving you next week. But don't worry, I've contacted your sister. She's bringing the investigator tomorrow. Just hang on, Emma. Help is coming. I squeezed her hand once, fighting against the weight of my useless body. I would hang on. I would survive. And when I finally opened my eyes, James and Sarah would learn exactly what it meant to wake the dead. The next morning brought chaos. Through my state of forced stillness, I could hear raised voices in the hallway, Kate's familiar fierce tone cutting through the hospital's usual quiet. I want to see my sister's medical records, she demanded. All of them. And I want to know why her husband isn't listed as next of kin anymore. That was news to me. Lisa must have been busier than I'd realized during her night shifts. Mrs. Mitchell's power of attorney was updated 6 weeks ago. Dr. Peterson explained calmly. Her sister Catherine Walsh is now legally responsible for her medical decisions. James's voice exploded into the conversation. That's impossible. I'm her husband. Her legally dead husband. The investigator's voice joined in, deep, authoritative. According to the death certificate you filed, Mr. Mitchell, your wife passed away over a month ago. That makes your claim to power of attorney rather interesting, doesn't it? The silence that followed was delicious. I wish I could see James's face. There's been a misunderstanding, he stammered. I can explain. Oh, I'm sure you can, Kate cut in. Just like you can explain why my sister's brake lines showed signs of tampering. Or why you took out a $2 million life insurance policy on her 3 months before the accident. More silence. Then the sound of rapid footsteps, James trying to leave. The investigator's voice rang out again. Mr. Mitchell, I wouldn't leave the state if I were you. We have some questions about insurance fraud and attempted murder. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity around me. Police came and went. Statements were taken. Lisa shared her documentation of my responses, the recording she'd secretly made of James and Sarah's conversations in my room. The hospital's security cameras had caught everything too, every visit, every whispered confession. Through it all, I kept squeezing Lisa's hand. One squeeze. Yes, I hear everything. Yes, I'm still fighting. Yes, I'm coming back. The police have taken them both in for questioning, Kate told me later, sitting by my bed. Lisa had explained to her about my consciousness, how I could hear and understand everything. James and Sarah. They're not getting away with this, Emma. I promise you. I wanted to hug her, to thank her for never giving up, for seeing through James's act when everyone else bought it. Instead, I lay there, listening and waiting, gathering my strength. That evening, Dr. Peterson brought in a specialist, a neurologist who specialized in coma recovery. Dr. Patel did a series of tests, measuring my responses to stimuli and commands. This is remarkable, she said finally. Your sister is absolutely present and aware. The improvements in her brain activity suggest she could wake up any day now. The fact that she was conscious enough to communicate through hand squeezes, it probably saved her life. Kate's breath caught. What do you mean? The transfer papers Mr. Mitchell filed. Dr. Patel explained. The facility he chose. We looked into it. It has a suspiciously high mortality rate for coma patients. If she had been moved there, she didn't need to finish the sentence. We all knew what would have happened. The next few days passed in a blur of medical tests and police interviews. I learned that Sarah had cracked under questioning, confessing everything. She and James had been having an affair for over a year. The plan had been his idea: stage an accident, collect the insurance, start a new life together. Sarah had helped him find someone to tamper with my car. But he said she wouldn't get hurt. Lisa read me Sarah's statement from the police report. The brakes were just supposed to fail enough to scare her, maybe cause a minor crash. He promised she wouldn't be seriously injured. Apparently, my supposed best friend thought attempted murder was fine as long as it wasn't too successful. The insurance company had launched their own investigation. The death certificate had been fraudulent. James had bribed someone at the funeral home to help him fake the documentation. The life insurance payout was being recovered, and James was facing multiple felony charges. But none of that mattered as much as what I felt happening inside my body. Day by day, I could sense more. My fingers didn't just twitch now. I could curl them slightly. My eyelids felt lighter. Something was changing. It happened on a Tuesday morning. Kate was reading to me, some trashy romance novel she knew I'd hate, when I felt it. A surge of strength, like a wave breaking through a dam. My eyes opened. Kate dropped the book. Emma. The room exploded into activity. Doctors rushed in, nurses called out stats. Through it all, I kept my eyes fixed on my sister's face, watching tears stream down her cheeks. Finally, after what felt like hours of tests and checks, they removed the breathing tube. My throat was raw, my voice barely a whisper, but I managed 3 words. I heard everything. Kate gripped my hand tight. "We know, sweetie. We know." "Where are they?" I asked. "James and Sarah. In jail, waiting for trial. They're not getting out anytime soon." I nodded slightly, conserving my strength. "Good, because I have a lot to say at their sentencing." Kate laughed through her tears. "That's my sister. 3 months in a coma and you come out swinging." But we both knew this was just the beginning. I had survived, yes. I had heard their plans and their confessions, gathered evidence even while trapped in my own body. But now came the hard part: recovery, rehabilitation, and making sure James and Sarah paid for every moment they thought I was helpless. They had tried to bury me, not realizing I was a seed. And now I was growing back stronger than ever. The next 6 months were the hardest of my life. Physical therapy was brutal. Learning to walk again, strengthening muscles that had atrophied during my coma. But I attacked each session with fierce determination, fueled by the memory of James and Sarah thinking I was as good as dead. Kate moved in with me after I was discharged, transforming my home back into something that felt like mine. She'd thrown out everything Sarah had brought in during her brief stay, repainted the walls, and rearranged the furniture. It helped, but sometimes at night, I'd still hear echoes of their conversations, their plans for my death playing on repeat in my mind. The preliminary hearing is next week, Detective Martinez told me during one of her regular visits. She'd been handling my case since the arrest, piecing together the conspiracy that had nearly killed me. "Are you sure you're ready to testify?" I met her gaze steadily. "I've been ready since the first day I heard them plotting in my hospital room." The courthouse was packed the day of the hearing. News of my resurrection had made national headlines. The coma patient who heard her husband plan her murder, who gathered evidence while trapped in her own body. Reporters lined the steps, cameras flashing as Kate helped me walk in. I hadn't seen James or Sarah since that day in the hospital when they discussed moving me somewhere to finish the job. Now, as I entered the courtroom, I saw them both at the defense table. James in an ill-fitting suit, his usual polished appearance gone, and Sarah looking small and terrified beside him. When I took the stand, James wouldn't meet my eyes. But Sarah stared, her face a mask of horror as I began to speak. "I remember everything," I said into the microphone, my voice clear and strong. "Every conversation, every plan, every detail of how they intended to kill me. I heard my husband plan my funeral while I lay there, unable to move or speak. I listened to my best friend comfort him, knowing they had sabotaged my car and left me for dead. I described it all, the conversations I'd overheard, the way they'd celebrated the insurance payout, their plans to transfer me somewhere I wouldn't survive. Through it all, I kept my eyes fixed on them, watching James squirm and Sarah cry. The worst part wasn't the betrayal, I continued. It was listening to them talk about me like I was nothing. Like the 10 years of marriage, the lifetime of friendship meant nothing. They thought being in a coma made me powerless. They were wrong. The evidence was overwhelming. Between Lisa's recordings, the hospital security footage, Sarah's confession, and my testimony, there was no room for doubt. The judge ordered them to stand trial for attempted murder, insurance fraud, and a host of other charges. As they were led away in handcuffs, Sarah finally broke. "Emma, please," she cried out. "I'm sorry. I never wanted." "Save it." I cut her off, my voice ice cold. "Save it for the trial." Outside the courthouse, Kate squeezed my hand. "You did it, sis. You showed them." But it wasn't over. The trial came 3 months later, and this time I was stronger. I could walk into the courtroom on my own, stand straight as I testified again, detailing every aspect of their plot. The jury took less than 2 hours to reach a verdict. guilty on all counts. At the sentencing hearing, I chose to speak again. This time, I looked directly at James and Sarah as I addressed the court. My husband and best friend thought they could simply erase me, I said. They planned it meticulously, the accident, the fake death certificate, the insurance scam. They celebrated their success while I laid in that hospital bed, thinking I couldn't hear them. But they forgot something important. I paused, letting my words sink in. They forgot that I am stronger than they ever imagined. They forgot that truth has a way of surviving, even when people try to bury it. And they forgot that karma comes for everyone eventually. The judge sentenced James to 25 years for attempted murder and conspiracy. Sarah got 15 years for her role in the plot. The insurance company recovered their money, and civil lawsuits would ensure neither of them profited from their crimes. As they were led away, I felt no satisfaction, no joy in their punishment. Instead, I felt something more powerful, freedom. 1 year after waking from the coma, I stood in front of a room full of medical students sharing my story. I've been invited to speak about coma consciousness, to help future doctors understand that their patients might be more aware than they appear. Never assume someone can't hear you, I told them. Never underestimate the power of the human spirit to fight back, to survive, to bear witness. Sometimes the person you think is powerless is actually the strongest one in the room. After the lecture, Lisa, still my closest friend, met me for coffee. Look at you now, she said, smiling. Speaking at medical schools, writing a book about your experience. You've turned this whole horrible thing into something meaningful. I nodded, thinking about how far I'd come. They thought they were writing my ending. Instead, they just gave me a new beginning. That evening, I visited my old house one last time before the sale closed. Kate had helped me put it on the market, agreeing it was time for a fresh start. As I walked through the empty rooms, I no longer heard echoes of James and Sarah's plotting. Instead, I heard my own voice, stronger than ever. They had tried to silence me, to write me out of my own life's story. But they had failed. I was alive, thriving, and telling my own truth. They would spend years behind bars, while I had nothing but open road ahead of me. As I locked the door for the final time, I smiled. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better, growing stronger, and showing the world that what doesn't kill you really does make you more powerful than your enemies ever imagined. James and Sarah had wanted to bury me. Instead, they had given me wings.